Hello, everyone. I must welcome you all to our webinar series, Future You, Set Your Career Compass Right with Experts Insight. And I'm your host, Kalyani, for this webinar. So today, our topic is Build a Career in Product Management. And in this webinar, you'll find out about the various roles in product management, career growth in product management, why product managers make great CEOs, why MBA is the best way to begin a career in product management, tips for profile building, skill sets to have, and more. And to answer all this, we have our speaker today, Mayur Arora. He's a product manager at Microsoft. Mayur is an alumnus of IIM Bangalore and worked with Dell as a software engineer for 3 years before choosing to pursue an MBA and a career in product management. So welcome Mayur Arora, and thank you so much for being here today for this session. I am aware that you have a very, very busy schedule at Microsoft, but thank you so much for taking your time and being here for this session. Thank you. So let's start from your career progression from software engineering to product management. Can you just take us briefly through it, as in even what exactly triggered your interest for product management and for MBA?
So Kalyani, after completing my computer science engineering in 2016, I joined a company and started working as a software engineer for 3 years. That is when I decided, I want to look at the other side of the table as well, and decided to pursue an MBA from IIM Bangalore. And all the different rules which come for placements do not take into account what you have done pre-MBA. Okay. So I wanted to join at an organization which could leverage my previous work ex, like pre-MBA work ex. And I think only consulting and product management were two places where my previous work ex would come in handy. Okay. And in fact, me working as a developer for 3 years had already established certain amount of sort of discipline as to how software is actually shipped, how it is ideated, how the entire process works. So I think it was a logical progression to join product management as a career post MBA, and here I am.
Okay, all right. Can you tell us about what are the roles and responsibilities of a product manager, and is it different from one industry to the other? Is it industry agnostic? So maybe then you could probably talk about the roles and responsibilities of a product manager in an IT firm, and also I mean how different it would be if the industry changes.
So Kalyani, I'll start with product management in IT firms or the technology companies, as we call it. So a product manager is usually responsible for end-to-end ideation, delivery, and execution of either an entire set of products or features or just one simple product or feature. Okay. So let's say if you are product manager for WhatsApp stories, you would be able to, work with designing team to ensure which button should I click so that, I would be able to select a video or an image or click a picture from your cell phone camera. Correct. And then how would it get presented and what will be the technology behind it and for how long will it be shown to my contacts. So yes, this WhatsApp stories is a very good example to understand product management. Okay. And yes, it is not very different across different industries. Of course, there could be some industry specific flavors to roles and what exactly is the product you're managing. But I see a lot of non-technical companies also hiring from IIMs these days. I remember Maruti Suzuki had hired from IIM Indore for a position called as product manager for their Nexa showrooms.
Okay. Is the product manager also looking at the design and all that in an IT firm?
So Kalyani, I'll start with the difference between brand manager and product manager. Okay. A brand manager's core job or responsibility is to ensure that his brand is well received. Okay. Everybody should be able to connect to that. I'll give you an example. Like whenever somebody says Tata Namak, the caption goes into everybody's ad that is Ghar Ghar Ka Namak, right? Yeah. And they have to ensure that their brand is well received, not just in terms of awareness, but in terms of availability, but in terms of quality, but in terms of affordability and a lot more other things. Okay. But when we talk about product management, of course, me as a product manager would definitely want my product to be well received and people buying it. But then I am more focused on the technology enablement part of it as well. Right?
Okay.
If I have to, let's say, again, taking the example of WhatsApp stories,
Hmm.
I would be the one who would end up working with design team. I would be the one working with sales team, development
Okay.
team. So yes,
Okay.
collaborating with cross-functional stakeholders remains the same in brand management and product management, but then the core responsibility, the parameter on which we are rated as how good a product manager or brand manager we are, slightly varies.
Okay. 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 So then, can you talk about the key expectation from a product manager,
Mhm.
a product manager at a firm? It could be any. Yeah.
Sure. So there are a few matrices which your management chain would track.
Hmm.
Let's say if you're working on an application, an Android application, an
Hmm.
iOS application, the
Hmm.
number of installs, the number of signups and things like that would matter a lot.
Hmm.
But then if you're working in a B2B product, that is where your revenue comes into picture. That is where, average revenue per customer comes into
Okay.
picture. And when you are into something which is neither of these, for example, you
Yeah.
work on Google search, Bing search,
Hmm.
that is where, you realize that Google works on this concept of users spending the least amount of time on their homepage, right?
Okay. Okay.
No
Yeah.
other
Hmm.
firm
Hmm.
would
Hmm.
want users to spend lesser time on their websites or their
Right.
products, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
Google works in a different manner.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yes, this is slightly different from the two earlier. I mean, I have discussed earlier. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, uh, can you then talk a little bit about your role, and also as a product manager, what exactly is the role
Mhm.
specifically at Microsoft, or for that matter, yeah, if you can just take it from a very IT centric firm, as in a typical day in
Mhm.
a product manager's life in an
Mhm.
IT firm.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Kalyani, a lot of my time is spent on analyzing user feedback. And when I
Okay.
say user, these could be front end users like WhatsApp users like you and me. Or
Okay.
if I work with businesses like Walmart and IKEA, they would be my customers as well, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
they send me feedback through various channels. Users like you and me can go to iOS store or Play Store and submit feedback. There
Hmm.
is a different loop for enterprise customers. So
Okay.
we write user stories, and when I say user stories, these are basically the requirements, and we create a ticket and put it in our backlog and prioritize certain items every month. We cannot do everything in one shot, right? So
Right.
let's say we have received 500 feedback. We think out
Hmm.
of it, 100 are something which makes sense to us, which will help us grow,
Hmm.
which will improve our product adoption, revenue, and other
Okay.
matrices.
Hmm.
So that is when we prioritize these 100 tickets and put it behind another 500 we would have from the history, from the past,
Okay.
and then would keep prioritizing, and will pick the most important features first. The prioritization could be in terms of number of users using it or the amount of money it is bringing in. So
Okay.
some part of it is spent here.
Hmm.
Some part of it is spent in talking to different cross-functional teams.
Okay.
So it's not that I'm going to do everything. There are a lot of people with specific jobs and roles and responsibilities.
Hmm.
So if I'm working on a product release, I'll have to talk to, operations team as to how will it be rolled out to the entire world,
Right.
right? So WhatsApp, let's say, has billions and billions of users, right?
Okay.
They don't make changes immediately. They have
Hmm.
certain loops, right?
Okay. Okay.
So that how the product is being rolled out to everybody.
Hmm.
Say it is available in India right now. From tomorrow, it
Hmm.
will come in other Asia Pacific countries as well.
Hmm.
So that is what we discuss with them. Then we work with marketing to ensure, okay, I have worked very hard for last 6 months and I've added 3 extra features in WhatsApp.
Hmm.
How are you going to market it so that more and more people use it, right? Because
Okay.
sometimes you don't directly earn money from users like WhatsApp. There are of course other ways, but then users don't pay for using WhatsApp, right? So
Okay.
how will you ensure that more and more people start using it? That is when we work with marketing to draft a plan. Okay, this is how it's gonna be, and we'll start showing ads on television. We'll start showing ads in newspapers. We'll target people above 75 because very few people over 75 use it. So
Hmm.
some part of it is spent here, and some part of the day is also spent with working with engineering team to help them understand the exact business requirements,
Okay.
convert those business requirements to technical details as to what can be changed in the product to improve it,
Hmm.
and helping them remove any blockers. A lot of times they have blockers in terms of lack of business understanding,
Hmm.
lack of architecture understanding. So that is where my role comes into picture, and I help them with more and more details so that they have zero doubts and end up working on an awesome product.
Hmm. Hmm. So, is that like a typical day for a product manager at an IT
Yes,
firm?
I know it's very overwhelming, but then it's actually fun.
Hmm.
When you love what you do, it's always like 8 a.m. all the time.
So you have to work with a lot of departments.
That's true. That's true. One needs to be good at, communication, not just written, but verbal as well, because you talk to so many people on a daily basis. So yes, I think these are like core skills which one should be ready with. And yes, you do pitch out new ideas to engineering, you do pitch out new ideas to customers and sales teams. So that is where I'm not saying you make good presentations, good PPTs. No, that's not required. Then you should be able to pitch whatever is written in that presentation, because it's meant to sell something, right? So yeah.
Okay.
Communication skills are definitely required.
Yeah. So we'll talk about the core skills in a bit. You've already had an IT. You had an IT background and 3 years of work experience in an IT firm before pursuing an MBA and then working at Microsoft. So what about people who aspire for product management roles and in an IT firm, say like a Microsoft, and then but they don't have an IT background, they don't come from an IT background, software engineering background. So what would their path be? How should they begin, or for that matter, where to begin even post MBA? Do they have a chance to work in an IT firm, or is it going to be a challenge? Like you said something about, also about, you are bringing in the solution, right? Whenever there is a problem. And then the architecture bit, that obviously, you need to have good skills, right? IT skills. So what do they do then?
So Kalyani, I'll merge this question with another question. What are the core skills required?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll talk about skills first. I think the very basic requirement for any job outside of an IIM campus are problem solving skills. Right? But in product management, I see that the problems are big and they last for years. Right? It's just not something like consulting that will get over in 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 quarters. No, that's not going to happen. If you stay in one product, you will end up solving a very big problem over a long period of time. So problem solving is one. Then your ability to comprehend a bigger problem into smaller chunks. This is again very much required. Of course, if you have, IT experience, software engineering experience, pre-MBA, that definitely helps, but that is definitely not a mandatory requirement these days. If your resume is able to portray you as somebody who's smart enough in terms of, communicating well, if you can show your abilities, problem solving abilities in a manner, they can understand, they'll definitely shortlist you. And once you get shortlist, it does not really matter whether or not you have pre-MBA work ex or not, but it's good to have. I would definitely advise folks, if they can work somewhere for say 6 months, 1 year, that would be great, because then the execution bits as well. Because sometimes when you talk to so many stakeholders like engineering, they may have some doubts, right? And if you were in their place like few years back, you would know how to answer those questions better. But even if you don't have such experience, you end up learning it on the job. So it's completely fine to not have that work.
Yeah. So you talked about two skills, but let's take say 3 core hard skills and 3 soft skills that you require to excel in product management.
All right. So in terms of
you already said problem solving.
And
yeah, and taking each problem and working it in chunks. Yeah. Those are the 2, and then maybe
So I think I'll take these soft skills first. The first soft skill which you would want to work upon is communication bit. This is very important, because as a product manager, you have to write so many emails, you have to go to so many meetings, you have to write the user facing documentation also. If you go to WhatsApp FAQ section, you will see a lot of details which might have been written by a product manager as well. So yes, the communication bit is very important. It's not that if you are bad or if you're average at communication, you should not become a product manager. You definitely should, but then focus on it is what I'm saying. The second is, a lot of people in product management talk about influence without authority. As product managers, you are not somebody's boss, as simple as that. You talk to thousands of people, but then they're not your reportees, right? But you still have to, influence them to get your work done, get your work prioritized over 10 other product managers. So if you're able to convince them in a manner that, if you help me on this, your goals will also be met, my goals will also be met. So I think you don't have the authority, but you still have the influence. So I think This funda is being used by a lot of tech companies these days. And it's again, I'll repeat it for everybody's sake. Influence without authority.
Influence without authority. Okay. Yeah.
And the third thing is negotiations. I think one should be great at negotiations. This is what I've learned on the job. I was not good at it. But then you have to negotiate. You always have to, prioritize one thing or the other, and you will see a lot of good features getting killed during your job or tenure as a product manager. You worked on 5 things, only 2 get chipped. It's not that I'm gonna cry for the remaining 3. And you have to negotiate with a lot of partners. By negotiation, I mean, okay, you tell them 10 things to do, they'll say, no, we'll only do 5, and somewhere around 7 or 8, you both settle down. So yes, negotiation is a fair bit, and especially when you deal with clients and customers. So I think these are the 3 soft skills which I believe one must have.
Okay. And hard skills?
Hard skills, again, first would be problem solving. Your ability to discover problems from, problem solving, business identification. These I would merge these as one. And sometimes it's working fine. But if you see there is a revenue opportunity, if you see 5 other users can join this product without making much changes, so that business opportunity identification is a bit which product managers learn on the job. It's not something which an IIM degree or pre-MBA work ex would teach you, but then you learn this on the job. Second would be solving a bigger problem into smaller chunks, delegating it to different people, coming back with solutions from each one of them, and merging everything to form one big solution. So I think that is a very important business skill, which is especially required in industries like consulting and product management. This is second hard skill. The third hard skill would be this may not be a skill per se, but then get your hands dirty. When I say hands dirty is when you talk to engineers, talk in their language, right? Understand the technology. See, a lot of my friends in Microsoft are not technical in nature, by their previous work was not technical. But then after coming here, they involve in these discussions. Maybe they start with a higher level, basic details around the project, and then they start getting deeper into it. But then you have to put both your arms and both your legs into the mess there is out there. So it's not that you can just tell people, fix this and fix that. No, this is not going to happen. You have to get your hands dirty. You have to work and clear the mess by yourself. And you should be good at delegating and communicating with people. So yes, I think these are like 5-6 top skills.
But how much of data how much of data does a product manager work with? As in, do you have to go through a lot of data and probably interpret something out of it, find some solutions or problems for that matter, and then how do you need to work with a lot of data?
So Kalyani, again, it's a very role specific question, but I believe most product managers, since they work on technical products, receive a lot of user data. Okay. Even if not user data, then logs from different applications and technologies which we use in our day-to-day lives. So what happens is a good product manager should be able to frame hypothesis. By hypothesis is, let's say users have stopped using WhatsApp stories. What is happening? Right? I can do some research and figure out using this data. But then a good product manager should be able to frame hypothesis, get it tested with the help of their engineering or analytics team, and then come up with solutions or conclusions. Right? So I think data helps you in uncovering a lot of problems which are usually hidden from most people. So yes, you definitely needs to be very hands-on on analytics. You definitely should be able to, frame hypothesis. Hypothesis testing as a subject is taught in all IIMs, but you end up using only in product management. So I think that is one good thing about this career.
Let's take a few questions now. How product management works around FMCG firms? If you can just take a little bit, like, maybe, with an example, if you have any.
Sure. So I think HUL and PNG were 2 companies which used to hire for some IT related profile. I forgot what it was, but then it was mostly around managing their enterprise applications. They have their own applications, or sometimes some of these are outsourced. They use it to, for order pick, procurement, payment reminders, and how much inventory is sold, how much of it is lying around. So yes, they have their own systems, and their product managers handle those systems. Of course, you cannot go there and say, I'm going to build WhatsApp for HUL. No, they don't need a WhatsApp, right? I'll say the ability to ideate is a bit lesser in non-IT companies, is what I feel.
Okay.
But yes, these days banks like Goldman Sachs come for product management openings in a lot of IIMs. So yes,
Okay. Okay.
that
So
happens.
what exactly would a product manager do, say, in a company like Goldman Sachs? Yeah.
Mhm. So a lot of
They are not creating any products, or they are not designing any products and all that. No, I mean,
so product managers a lot of times do not only work on external user facing applications, but
okay.
sometimes they work on internal user facing applications, right?
Okay.
I'll give you a very simple example. Like
Hmm.
the company where I work, let's say they have a payroll system in place and
Okay.
it's all inbuilt. They'll
Okay.
have a product manager for it, but that payroll system is only available for employees. It'll never be seen by somebody else outside, right?
Okay. Yeah.
This is one example. Similarly, a lot of investment banks like Goldman have started their retail business and are building applications, credit cards, and all that.
Yeah.
And I think they have been hiring big time in India, is what I feel. I have a couple of friends there, and they tell me that it's
Okay.
expanding a lot.
Okay.
But HUL and PNG are prominent examples from FMCG who hire for IT positions from IIMs.
Okay. All right. Okay. What's the working hours of a product manager? Yeah. What kind of a work-life balance one has in product management?
Uh,
And you
I'll
can
start
talk
this
about,
answer.
like, yeah, you can also talk about it from say somebody who is starting, who's
Okay.
early on in their career, and somebody who has become a head or something. Yeah.
Okay. So I think in your junior phases, a lot of people put in more efforts because they want to understand this system first, right? If you are at a place for 5 years, you would know everybody, you would know what every component does
Yeah.
and what it is meant to do, right?
Correct.
But then if you're new, I think a lot of people put in extra efforts, and that is what I did in my initial phases of career.
Okay.
And you reach out to people to understand stuff. You make friends, and you take them out for lunch and discuss problems with them. Because I used to do this. I would not say I need 30 minutes of your time to discuss problems. I'll say let's
Yeah.
have lunch together,
Mm.
and we'll ask all my questions during those lunch hours.
Okay.
So yes, I have had lunches thrice a day in my initial phases of career.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah. So the point being, in terms of work-life balance, it's still better than a lot of industries. But the thing is, since you work with people across different time zones, it is again very highly company dependent. But if
Okay.
you work across time zones, you'll have to respect their time. You have to agree to, meet during their daytime, or so that happens. Like it's all collaborative. But then I think it gives you amazing work-life balance. And most companies, all my friends in product management have a very healthy work-life balance, and they're very satisfied with the quality of output they generate in their day-to-day jobs. So I think I may not be able to say the same for a lot of other industries.
Okay. Okay. I being a chemical engineer, do I have a chance in an IT firm having uh, little knowledge in IT sector or coding? So yeah, so it's that same question,
So
non-IT.
when you submit your resume during final placements or summer
Yeah.
placements, we don't care if you know about chemical equations or which acid is stronger, right? We care about if you can, again, going back to my hard skill answer, do you have those skills or not?
Okay.
Every job description which comes to IIMs has some core skills listed down below. If you check like more than half of the check boxes, I mean, not me, but then like the company will definitely shortlist you.
Okay.
And don't worry about your chemical engineering workings as long as you are able to tell them that you learned something meaningful and valuable out there.
Okay.
It would definitely be helpful, because of course a lot of softwares would be used for chemical industry, right? I know, as a matter of fact, oil companies like Schlumberger have big IT departments. I'm not sure if they hire from IIMs, but then they have big IT departments internally. So
Okay.
yes, there is a lot of scope for each and every graduate. I've seen economics graduate becoming product managers after their MBAs.
So would you say that in product management you are the projects that you take up and the problems also that you're solving, they take a longer period? I mean, because you were talking about consulting, like it's a very fast pace. You have to take case by case, and it's
I'll
very
give you an
fast.
example. So let's say tomorrow Google decides or Zoom decides, we are using Zoom, right? So let's say
Yeah.
Zoom decides our number of users are declining.
Okay.
Okay. So there are two ways. If a consultant is working on this, he'll come up with 10 different solutions, prioritize them, and give it to Zoom and say, do whatever you want. Okay, bye.
Okay.
Whereas the product manager would be a lot more focused on, okay, let's try 3 of these solutions. Let's see which one works the best. Okay, he's there with you for a longer duration of time.
Okay.
And of course, he'll work on the execution bit as well. Execution bit would be, let's say, tomorrow you want to take away the video part of it. You only want to keep audio calls in Zoom. Just randomly picking an example. You know, consultant would just give you the solution. The product manager will end up, executing it and might end up coming back and saying, if you remove video, 90% of the users will be gone, right? So yes, the product management job is more end-to-end. Consulting focuses on just one part of it.
Okay. Can a commerce student make their career in product management? Of course, not in IT. Of course, not in IT. Put it in a bracket. Yeah.
I know somebody in my org. Of course, I'm not gonna take the name, but then I know she's an SRCC graduate. And she's a very senior product manager. I do not know where she was like for past 10 years or so, but she's an SRCC BCom honors graduate and works with Microsoft as a very, very senior product manager.
Do product managers work on multiple projects or products simultaneously? Or as you said, we have to settle off for one single product for a long period?
So I think a lot of product managers who will start their career would be given just one.
Okay.
Again, it depends. Some companies might end up giving you 2 and 3, but the impact would be lower. So in initial phases, it is expected for you to work more deeply on 1 or 2 problems. But as you grow up in your career, as you have people reporting to you, as you start high firing from IIMs and kids start calling you sir, that is when you end up working on different products. So let's say if I and 5 of my colleagues report to one manager, right? So while we all 5 or 6 are responsible for 1-2 projects each, he or she would be responsible for like 10 or 12, whatever is the cumulative number, right? So yes, he gives us like the visionary kind of inputs, and we take those inputs, incorporate it, and work end to end and focus on the execution bit. So yes, the senior you become, the bigger your scope of work is, the bigger your influence becomes, and your inputs also become very valuable after you've crossed say 5, 10, 15, 20 years in product management. Because you have seen everything. You have seen how WhatsApp works, how Teams works, and how Google search works. So yes, I think a lot of it comes from experience. A lot of it comes from talking to customers and understanding their pain points.
Correct. Okay, what is the career path to becoming a product manager? How to begin a career in product management? You can probably take it from an MBA point of view as well as from a before pre-MBA.
Non-MBA point of view.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pre-MBA.
So if you are an MBA student or are trying to pursue an MBA in next couple of years, 3 years, my advice would be to start. When you join an MBA degree, you should write your resume in a manner wherein your problem solving skills are visible to the recruiter. Okay. Because your batchmates would be like 400, 500 people, and all of them submit resume for all the job openings, right?
Right.
So the recruiter or the HR would be only able to, give 30 seconds to a resume or 45 seconds to a resume.
Correct.
So if you're able to show us or show any company for that matter, your ability to solve bigger problems, your ability to work on complex solutions and still being able to deliver on time, your ability to work with thousands of people, hundreds of people, and still, running the project on time. Show us something similar, show in your resume, and I think you'll definitely get a short list, because that is what I tried, and a lot of my seniors guided me with this.
So, there is a question about currently working as business analyst. Will this experience help me to become a product manager?
Definitely, because you work with a lot of data and analytics teams to frame hypotheses and come up with conclusions and new business needs. So yes, definitely, business analyst, software engineering are good work gigs to have. Consulting too. I'm not saying that any other experience is just not as useful, but then these 3 are preferred by a lot of hiring managers. Because certain skill set they look for would already be ingrained in people coming from these backgrounds.
Yeah, so I'm not too sure if you did answer the entire step-by-step for
I'll come back.
Yeah. Can you please answer that, as in in any firm, how is the career growth? What's the step-by-step? Like maybe you can say, you started with the product management, you become a product manager. Then where what's the next step, and then how I'm not talking about like, yeah, the person becomes a CEO, but what's the head in product management?
So I think I can start by saying that most MBAs would join as product managers fresh out of campus, whereas most undergraduates or non-MBAs join as APMs, associate product managers.
Okay, yeah.
And then a couple of years into APM role, they make you product manager depending upon the kind of impact you have delivered. When I say impact, it could be revenue, it could be more number of app installs, it could be making your product more awesome.
Correct.
Every company has their own definition of impact. And again, from product manager to product manager 2, that is the usual cycle. It takes about anywhere between 1 to 3 years.
Okay.
And then from product manager 2 to product manager 3, again 2 to 4 years, depending upon the impact. And the next step is principal product manager or group product manager. That again takes like additional 4-5 years from senior. And after that would be director. After director would be vice president.
Okay.
And then I think that would be the last stage would be the CEO, as a lot of people are trying to become, but then, you know, it's a very big deal to become a director or a vice president, because that is when you have a lot of influence. If somebody is a vice president of product management, the entire company, how will they look 10 years down the line is purely dependent on that person. So yes, I think that is the usual hierarchy. And don't worry about whether you will join as an APM or a PM or a PM2. It does not matter. It's the impact which you bring in. I've seen people getting promotions in 6 months, and I've seen people not getting promoted in 6 years as well. So yes, focus on the impact bit. If your role says you have to increase revenue, just do that, as simple as that.
Okay. What are the how to build your profile to stand out? So maybe you can take this question along with this other question, that is, if someone is, say, an IT firm is hiring, I'm not saying Microsoft and anybody, so specifically, so an IT firm is hiring, what are the kind of profiles that they would prefer or they would actually consider? And then you can take the second part of this question as in how to build the profile. Yeah.
Okay. So I think a lot of B school students these days have this opportunity to participate in competitions run by these companies.
Okay.
So Flipkart Wired is one competition, Microsoft Engage is another.
Okay.
I forgot the name of the Google competition, but that is also very prestigious. So I think these are the top 3 which I participated long time back, but there are a lot many.
Okay.
So I think even if you're not from such backgrounds, participate in those. Okay. And even if you don't win it, the output is you becoming better and you becoming ready for a product management position. If you are like top 2 or top 3 these days, a lot of companies say, okay, be in top 3 of your campus and will directly shortlist you for an interview. Microsoft does that. So top 3 participants directly get a shortlist, even if they're not from the core engineering background or do not have a very stellar resume. So I think that is the easiest way to get shortlist. The other way is do the usual what everybody does. Focus on the resume writing bit. But then a lot of people are doing it. So differentiation factor would be you winning these competitions and participating. And you should be able to mention that in your resume. Even if you participated and did not win, focus on what your learning was. Right? Let's say you tell you participated in Microsoft competition, did not end up winning it. Write it in your resume that while you were working on that Microsoft project thing to make teams better for schools and colleges, you researched X number of things, and this is what you know about telecommunications industry. So if Microsoft Teams does not hire, you might end up getting hired by Zoom or Google, right? So yes, you should be able to focus on the learning part of it and not worry about a job. And to build profile building is a very vague generalist term, but then like just to answer the question, I think participating in competitions, ensuring that if you have friends who are into product management as a career choice, prepare a small group of 2 to 4 people, interview each other, focus on the problem solving bit. I think I was not very confident for interviews, but then when I made a small social circle and started mock interviews with them, it was very helpful because
So
I think my friends
practice.
were more critical than the actual interviewers. So that helps.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Let's take a few questions again. I'm working in an operations role for 3 years. How can I move to a product role without an MBA?
Okay, without an MBA, I believe all the companies usually hire the entry level roles without any expectations from previous work ex. Okay. You can still end up applying to the APM role in Flipkart I have friends who work as APM. I'm not promoting Flipkart in any way, by the way.
Yeah.
So these companies basically do not have expectations from your previous work ex, but would want to test your problem solving skill, how logical you are, if you are good at identifying, problems in our existing business. I remember Flipkart asking this question in an interview to my friend. What do you dislike about Flipkart, and how will you solve that problem as a product manager?
Okay.
So don't tell them that, Flipkart delivery guy is very late, does not pick my phone. No, that is not a question you can solve as a product manager.
Yeah.
But tell them something, and if they like it, they might as well give you the job, right? Go ahead, fix it. As simple as that.
Okay.
So Flipkart used to do that a long time back, and my friend answered that, there are some
what are you
challenges.
supposed to? Yeah. What are you supposed to answer for such a?
So his suggestion was, I still remember his answer. It was around the operations bit, right? The return process is messed up. And he said, I, as somebody from operations background, would just not understand the operations part of it, but the technology part. I'll help create easier experience for users, easier experience for delivery providers, like the riders which come to your place to pick it up. So yes, his answer was around that bit, and they were very happy with that answer because they were struggling with these return pickups, and a lot of mistakes were happening, and this guy actually ended up on working on that bit.
So, tell me, for this particular person, the one who was in operations right now for the past 3 years, would you recommend that person to actually probably get an MBA and then move to product management? Would that be a better option instead of starting all over again, like right from the basics?
So if you go to an MBA, you have this added leverage of participating in competitions, meeting smart people, and building skill sets without worrying about a job, right?
Okay.
But if you're working already and you are preparing, I'm not saying this is the bad way or the inferior way, but then an MBA is definitely recommended because in India especially, and if you have less than 5 years of work ex, an MBA can help you change your career trajectory at all. A lot of my friends who were software engineers earlier are investment bankers. A lot of my friends who are software engineers are now marketing managers and brand managers. I decided to continue in the same stream because of my own choices, but then an IIM can catapult your career in any direction you want.
Correct.
So, and not just an IIM, I mean an MBA degree. Of course, ISB, FMS
from a
counts
top,
too.
from a top B
Yeah,
school.
from a top B school.
So the next question is that, does having an MBA increase the chances of becoming a PM? Consider I already have a 2-year experience in IT. What should one do to get started in PM without MBA? Again, no, without MBA. So I think you've kind of answered it again.
I'll answer this question. So some skills which you would need, not day to day, but then sometimes in a year, are taught in MBA. I'll talk about a few of those. So as a PM, we budget. And what do I mean by budget is how we are going to use this much money to make our product better. So if you know some accounting bit, that's great. If you don't, then you seek help from people.
Okay.
So I think when they hire from MBAs, the core aspect is this guy would know a little bit about accounting, a little bit about operations, a little bit about marketing, because these are the fundamental subjects taught in first year MBA. And then we'll test him for a lot of technology thing, a lot of problem solving bit in interviews. And this makes a more complete product manager. But even if you do not know anything about accounts, and I have a lot of friends who came here after their master's MS in computer science, they're equally good product managers, just that they do not know the accounting bit. And that is when I help them or their leaders help them. So it's completely okay.
Okay. A fresh graduate can also be a APM. What is the advantage of leaving an already APM job and going for an MBA to become a PM? Will an MBA provide an upper hand in 5 to 10 years down the line? Why to go for a 2-year MBA, which will also cost me a fortune?
Which is a very legit question. Let me tell you that. But then people do MBA to try out different things. As simple as that. Okay. I, despite the fact that remained in the same sector, but I got to try, not just the specific bank I went to for my internship, but then I got to talk to a lot of people in terms of how their experience was in an HR firm, in a consulting firm, in a marketing role, right? And the core aspect to go for a full-time degree has to be education. There is no two way about it. So, and that being said, if you're already an APM, feel free to like go for an MBA or not go for an MBA. It's completely up to you. But then this career solely focuses on the impact you drive. There is no other metric. We don't care about, like, no other company would even care about which degree you have. Just ensure that the impact is being driven. If somebody says get 10 million apps installed and you end up doing 15, this is amazing. As a fresh grad out of campus, if you are able to achieve 150% of your goals, your manager would be very happy to promote you immediately. But if you're only be able to do like half of the OKRs, half of the total goals of the year, promotions, you know how they work, right?
Yes, yeah.
So it's the impact and not the degree, but the degree will give you additional skills, as simple as that. As an APM, you might not know the accounting part of it, the marketing part of it, the PPT making skills part of it, which we learn in MBA.
Yes, yeah.
But then those are not mandatory skills. They are just good to have, not must-haves.
Okay.
Okay.
What are the average packages for PM role, and what is the future of PM role? And is there stocks also included in the package?
Every conversation we have, Kalyani, we get this question.
I know, yeah. And that's why I wanted to take this question, because I remember, you said something about the stocks also included in the package.
I remember somebody calling me and saying, I am confused between IIM, A, B, and C, and I was giving him an answer, go to this, go to that. And in the middle of the conversation, how much does a product manager earn?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in terms of remuneration, I'll be very honest with you, the average PM salary would be slightly higher than average batch salary. Of course, some companies pay less, some companies pay ridiculous amount of money.
Okay.
But if you take the cumulative average, PM salary should be 5 to 10% more than the batch average.
Okay.
And this used to be the case in my years. I have no idea what happens now. But having said that, the PM compensation is very well split into different components.
Yeah.
You have your base salary, which is fixed. Nobody can take this away from you. Divide this by 12, subtract taxes, and you get it in bank account.
Okay.
The other components would be variable bonus. Variable bonus remains consistent across industries. Like every job out of IIM will have some performance related bonus or variable bonus, as we call it. So different companies have different matrices to track this, but a very good indicator would be anywhere between 10 to 30% of your base salary. Okay. This happens a lot with people in more performance oriented companies like consulting, technology, investment banking. They pay you a lot more variable salary than, say, general management or marketing. Okay. And third component is your stocks, which a lot of people want to know about. So stocks are basically given to you when you join. You get it for, say, a period of 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years. Some companies give it for 3. Microsoft gives it for 4. I'm not sure about other companies. But then these are allotted to you immediately. But once you complete 1 year, you will get whatever percentage they have promised. Once you complete 2nd year, you get whatever percentage was promised. That keeps happening. So your compensation is not just cash. It's variable salary. It's stocks which get credited to your trading account, which you decide you can sell at any point of time. But then we have seen historically in last 5-10 years, a lot of tech companies have boomed, and people who get paid in stocks more end up, multiplying their capital, multiplying their net worth a lot easier, a lot faster.
Okay. Can you recommend 3 books for aspirants to read in order to understand product management better, and maybe, even get some interesting trivia about product management?
I have 2 on the top of my mind. One is Decode and Conquer. Decode and Conquer is a book by John C. Lewis, if I'm correct. And this book gives you a very brief idea, the very initial imprint of how a PM career looks. The book has very few number of questions to practice, but then they give you the generic gyan, what is expected out of these interviews, what a good product manager does, what a bad product manager does, and things like that. So I think this should be the very first book which anybody aiming to become a product manager should read. And it's not very comprehensive, but then this should be the first right step, right? And the second book I have in mind is Cracking the PM Interview. So Cracking the PM Interview again has a lot of practice questions with answers. And these 2 resources were something which I used extensively. And I see a lot of fresh talent also using this. These are very old books, but then still are globally accepted, and people use them all the time.
Okay, now before we wrap up, since CAT is almost around the corner, and yeah, so a lot of most of our some of our attendees are taking CAT this year, and some are taking next year. So for those who are taking this year, do you have any learning or any tip from your CAT journey to give them for now? As in, yeah, now it's August ends.
So I think we have just about 3 months left, right? CAT is conducted in November last week. So we have about 3 months.
Yeah.
And my only request to everybody here on this call would be to focus more on, revising the concepts, taking more and more practice tests, discussing the performance with friends, teachers, and mentors at IMS. And of course, IMS family is always there for you to help you in terms of preparation. A lot of people, when I was a student at IMS, I used to go back to my teachers saying, I'm very weak in this topic. What should I do? And they used to provide very key inputs. And I was lazy and stupid to do it at the last moment, 15 days before CAT. But my humble request to everybody would be to start doing this from now on. Okay. So practice a lot, study a lot, and reach out to your mentors and faculty members in IMS. They are very helpful people. And some of them I have been in contact with after so many years as well. So yes, that is one advice. And do not focus on average salaries. Do not focus on the median CTC, mean CTC, and mode CTC. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Things fall into picture in their place. I mean, once you start working hard and once you're aligned with your goals.
Correct.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's all we have time for. Thank you all the attendees and all the best for your CAT preparation. And thank you, Mayur Arora. Thank you so much for giving us insights on product management. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kalyani, for having me here. Bye-bye.